At the top, cornerback sleepers. I'll mention my guy. And Rick, I want to hear about your guy. So my guy's Corey Trice out of Purdue. Big cornerback. Ran surprisingly well, sub 4.5 during the pre-draft process. A little stiff. I think he may have to move to safety, but he offers some versatility. Probably maybe he goes late day 2, but definitely early day 3 option there. And BMAC's guy is Juju Brents, the long cornerback out of Kansas State.
Can I interrupt for a second? BMAC, it's supposed to be sleepers, guys that are not being talked about. This guy is like 7 foot long. He has a 87,000-inch wingspan, and people are talking about him because he ran fast at the combine.
Well, this was something that I did specifically for you, Rick, because I heard you were not high on Brents the entire process. Yes. And me and Ryan had a conversation about Julius during the season. And I've been high on him. And I remember Ryan got back to me when you guys started working together, traveling, looking at tape. Rick is not high on Brents. Rick doesn't like Brents for this reason. Rick doesn't like Brents for that reason. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to be on with the first pick and we're talking about sleepers, yeah, he might not be a sleeper right now. But for some people like yourself, Rick, you're still sleeping on Julius Brents. So that's why I put him as my sleeper.
He can, for you. As long as he doesn't have to cover Quentin Johnson, then he'll be fine.
That's fair.
Whoa. The second game, he did a real good job against Johnson.
He was better, but still, Quentin Johnson went up over top of him a few times. And how can a guy 7 foot tall get the ball taken off the top of his head like Quentin Johnson did on him?
Well, to Brent's defense, if you're going to allow a few passes to be caught, at least allow them to come from the hands of a guy who's going in the first round as well.
And Rick, in your defense, you did come around on Juju over the course of the season. And,
I did.
In the pre-draft process. And give BMAC your stat that I always mess up about long cornerbacks.
Yeah, what we did in Minnesota was we did the analytics, and corners that have a wingspan that is greater than 79 inches, and his is offensive lineman wingspan. 9 out of the 10 guys have that came out with wingspan of his size led the league or were at the top of the league in PBUs.
And Rick, I'll tell you this: BMAC was on Tariq Woolen before anyone else last year too. He pointed that he was going to run fast, and he's a former wide receiver, and he obviously had a huge season. He's probably in that list of guys you're talking about. And Rick, I want to talk about your sleeper real quick. Clark Phillips, the third.
I love Clark.
Thank you.
Utah. 5'9", 184, rated 4.51. So I think we were higher on him during the fall, and then the measurements started coming in, and he wasn't maybe quite as fast as we hoped. Where are you on Clark?
I think he's going to be a starting nickel. I don't know if he's going to be able to line up outside with that speed, but this kid is one of the most competitive kids that I saw on tape. I know he's undersized. I know he didn't run fast, but he knows how to play football. And for a smaller corner, this guy has some unique ball skills. I mean, he gets his hands on a lot of balls. So with the way the offenses are in the NFL right now, and probably 70% of the time they're in some kind of 3-wide package. So I would consider this kid almost as a Knicks starter. And I think he'll step in and play right away because of his instincts, because I think he is aggressive enough in run support. And I think he's twitchy enough to be able to mirror versus underneath coverage versus those slot receivers. Did you ever hear of him, B-Mac? Was that a sleeper, or do you know about him?
Well, I know about all these guys, by the way. And number two, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a sleeper, but he's not getting the first round notoriety that some of these other guys are getting because he didn't run 4.4, he didn't run 4.3. I mean, He's faster than 4.5 based on what I've watched. And I just love his instincts. He's a natural cornerback. It seems like he's been playing cornerback his entire life, the way he's fluid in space. And I do believe he's a guy that can play inside or outside. He's shown that ability at Utah, and he's a guy who just competes. I love his techniques, and the issue for him, I think, for Clark, guys, is that this draft in regards to corners, there are so many long, tall guys. I mean, this is probably, and Ryan, you've been covering the draft for quite some time, and the same can be said for you, Rick. When you talk about the length at the
longer than Ryan,
position,
but go ahead.
No question. But when you talk about length, man, I can't recall seeing a draft with this many 6-footers at the cornerback position in quite some time. And that's kind of hurting Clark because he's 5'10", and he didn't really run a 40 time like some of these other taller guys have ran. So it's kind of pushed him back a little bit. But whatever team drafts him is going to get good value.
So
They
he's
said,
actually
yeah, you know how you know a good corner? When they're born, they come out walking backwards. That's when you know you have a corner.
Born to backpedal, no question.
So, Rick, let me ask you. I don't want to correct you, BMAC, but Clark came in at 5'9". He's not even 5'10". So I got two questions for you. One question, one comment for you, Rick. So, number one, would you feel comfortable putting Clark outside at 5'9"? And number two, his wingspan is 70 inches and 6/8. Compared that to our guy Juju, which is 82, almost 83 inches.
Yeah, no, I think he's a Nick corner all the way. I think he would have, and I agree with BMAC. I think he's just a better football player than he is an athlete in the way he tested at the combine. And I just love his instincts. He just knows how to play the position. 5'9" guys nowadays with the size of the outside guys, I think they have some struggles. I don't think, unless they're very unique. The most unique small corner I was ever around that I thought was one of the best corners that I've ever had on a football team was Antoine Winfield Sr. That he can play, but he was small, but he can play outside. He played inside, and he'd hit the heck out of you. I mean, but I think nowadays the way the game's evolved, the way the size of the receivers are on the outside, that this guy's a perfect Nick, and he's going to play almost just as many snaps as a starter.